Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our session today. This is our final webinar of the year. Cheers to that. And today we're going to be talking around our predictions for the tax and accounting profession for next year. This is off the back of an ebook that we've recently sent out, so you might have seen a bit of that. And this session is very much to bring a little bit of life to those findings. Like I say, we're closing out the year, so we think it's a good time to look ahead. It's been a hectic year, I think, certainly from us, but certainly also from a regulatory and technology standpoint. So we're going to be looking at some of those themes and think about what next year has in store and give you some hints and tips about what you can think about ahead in terms of your preparation. So today we've got my expert panel. So we've got some people from my leadership team in the UK. So we've got Matt Barnes, Sales Director for the UK, Mo Sidat, who's our Product Director for the UK, Andy Thompson, who is Marketing Director for Region West in Europe, and Wendy Owen, who is Head of Professional Services for the UK. So they're going to help me unpack their predictions for next year. And please, we're recording the session, so you can always go back to this. And if you've got any questions along the way, then please do submit them at any time. We're happy to look at those. We can put them on the spot. So let's get started. So just to set the scene a little bit. So we know that this year has been a year of change. So there's been a lot of evolving regulations, technology shifts, and also shifting workforce expectations. So I'm going to put them on the spot. So to start us off, I want to ask each of the panelists for a short phrase that captures what they feel the accounting profession, sorry, I've lost track of my words, how you describe the accounting profession as we head into 2026. So Matt, I'm going to come to you first.
Thank you. Firstly, I'm honoured to be described as an expert. Called many things, expert not being one of them, but thank you for introductions. So the marketplace in accountancy at the moment, I would describe as a market of consolidation underpinned by digital transformation. Now, can I elaborate just a little bit on that? I know you wanted me to narrow it down to one sentence, but if I explain what I mean by this, mergers and acquisitions has been going on for quite a number of months and years now. We know that. It's been particularly ramped up in recent months. Now, I was on a call yesterday with a consolidator, and they talked about having made 39 acquisitions in 35 months. Now, that's just extraordinary pace. Now, this typically is funded by private equity and venture capitalists. Now, these PEs and VCs are not in it for the love of the accountancy profession. They want their returns, or multiples as they're known. So typically they're looking for returns of 6 times or 8 times initially. In order for that to happen, then the firms that they acquire need to become more and more profitable through adopting technology and gaining efficiency. So efficiencies through AI and automation, etc. I'm sure we'll talk about that in due course. But what's quite interesting is I was asked, is this likely to carry on? Do you think consolidation is likely to carry on? We're already seeing the first flips, if you like, there, where a PE or VC has sold onto another PE or VC. So we've seen this with August Equity selling their share of AB to Goldman Sachs, Waterland PE, the equity of Cooper Parry into Lee Equity, and Horizon Capital, Danes to IK Partners. So I see this trend very, very much continuing in the next coming months and years. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. So exciting times ahead, I think, for the accounting profession.
Very lovely. Thank you. Wendy, I'm going to come to you next.
Good morning. Yes, so I'm going to look at our roles as leaders. So not necessarily focused just on accountancy, but it's our role as a leader across our people. Because, and to quote a quote I found the other day, to win in the marketplace, you must first win in the workplace. And we need to lead our teams and drive our teams' behaviors to enable us to deliver on our objectives and our long-term goal and vision.
Ooh, that's a good one. Thank you, Wendy. Andy, come to you.
Yeah, thanks, Steph, and morning, everyone. I think it's around being ready for the future. Obviously, we do the future ready accountant, but I think it's very much about being future ready. In Matt's very concise answer, he spoke about consolidation. I think we've got that coming. We also have AI, which is a buzzword, yes, but we'll touch upon that a lot. There's the regulation changes. So I think very much for the industry, it's about being ready for the future.
Okay, lovely. And finally, Mo, your thoughts.
Thank you, Steph. So my phrase would be digital acceleration. It's something that we've always spoken about. There's lots of new tech always coming around the corner. But what we're now seeing is that firms aren't just adopting tech anymore. They're actually using it to fundamentally change the speed of how they work and interact with their clients. And that's just going to be furthermore pushed forward next year with AI, agentic AI, and MTD coming in as well, which we'll be talking about later in the session.
Okay, lovely. I'm going to throw a question to the people who have joined us. So if you could pop it in the chat, is your firm feeling optimistic or cautious about 2026? I'd love to hear from you guys. So just pop that into the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that and see where you think you are. So I'm going to start with our prediction number one. So moving from compliance to growth. The compliance challenge to growth drivers. So Mo, I'm coming to you for this one. So one of the biggest shifts next year that we've said is obviously, you can't get away from it, making tax digital for income tax. So we've kind of heard that many firms see this as a compliance headache, but in the report, you said that it's actually more of a growth driver. So can you tell us a little bit more about why you see it that way?
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, you're right. April 2026 is coming round, the go live date, as we already know about. And I can understand firms will be anxious about just getting clients ready and just trying to be compliant. But if you flip that and not think about MTD just being about compliance and getting the bare minimum done, there's a big opportunity here to have more sort of client engagement. The biggest opportunity firms have had for like over a decade, I'd say. So normal tax workflow where you just do your self-assessment once a year, but you've got an opportunity now to review your client's data 4 times within a year, as an example. And what you can do with that as part of that growth driver is to then look back at these touch points and assist your clients on cash flow or tax saving opportunities during the year rather than at the end of the year. So what I kind of see with MTD is there's going to be some firms that are just seeing it as a compliance change and just getting it done, whereas the ones that are seeing it as a growth driver and using these kind of touch points as opportunities to be able to be more proactive business advisors and monetizing on that deeper relationship, they're going to see more sort of kind of the benefits of MTD going forward.
Okay, lovely. And for firms who are feeling that they might be a bit behind the curve, what's the practical kind of step or piece of advice that you can give them to get them to start thinking about how to be ready for it?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's lots of information out there already, lots of webinars, or all the trade shows are talking about it. But if you're still worried about this, what I'd say is look at your client base and start the conversations now if you haven't already. So segment your base 100% to see who's going to be mandated, and then potentially segment them into non-digitized and digitized ones. Because what we found from our research that we've done is that our clients, our accountants are most worried about their clients that are non-tech savvy when it comes to MTD. If they're already digitized, they see it as just a bit of a change. But if they're not digitized, that's where the concerns come in. So I'd say start that conversation, identify who needs hand-holding more than others, join the HMRC pilot. There's still an opportunity now because the benefit of that is you can start looking at your processes in this soft landing phase and kind of work out where the kinks are and make that better. So all of these things will kind of get you prepared and ready for MTD when it comes along. And the other stuff I'd say is just, we've put on a lot of stuff. Look at our website. We've got an MTD page. We've had lots of MTD webinars as well, where we've spoken about the processes. We've spoken about the legislation, how iFirm is going to help. And also in the last one that we ran, we had HMRC come on and answer a few questions. So all of these assets are ready and available. So review that and don't try and put off MTD because it is going to happen now.
Yeah, and we'll certainly be looking to do more of those for next year as well. So that conversation will definitely continue. How do you see the client expectations changing once MTD becomes the norm?
So, I guess this is just my view. It may not come true, but I feel like clients will stop just expecting doing the math, because they're having to now potentially pay a bit more because the price has gone up because you're doing stuff 4 times a year. There's more data that the accountant is now privy to, so they may kind of feel like you gain all this information, so I expect answers a lot quicker because I'm submitting stuff on a quarterly basis. They don't want to wait till the end of the year to be told what to do with their tax liabilities, as an example. So I feel like clients are going to be slightly more demanding. So it's just being on top of that and having processes in place about what you'll do on a quarterly basis when that information comes in from your client and what your service looks like.
Yeah, that's great. And also it's an opportunity for, our audience to connect with their customers on a more regular basis. So there's definitely something there. Yeah. And do you think that firms that embrace digital early will gain that competitive edge?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a massive growth driver, because if people are embracing all the digital tools and they're doing stuff manually or having manual processes, it's going to get your qualified staff bogged down into a lot of manual data entry. And it's not just once a year now, it's 4 times a year, as an example. So the firms that embrace digital kind of workflows as much as you can, they're going to be able to kind of automate a lot more, and then they can then compete on price, service levels, and what they offer as well through the automated kind of cost savings. And then your staff, your qualified staff, will be able to spend more of their time on the high value advisory stuff as well. So definitely see this as an opportunity for a competitive edge.
Okay, great. Thank you. If anybody's got more questions for Mo, he's going to take a little bit of a breather now, but please do pop any questions in the Q&A and we'll circle back to them. So moving on to our next prediction, which is moving into more of a marketing mindset. So my boss, Andy, is here to give us a little bit more insight into that. So we always talk about the need for firms to rethink their approach to marketing. So Andy, why is visibility becoming so important as we move into next year?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. As you know, I've been vocal about this
Very vocal.
and that need to rethink it. For me, is marketing, quite simply, is how you show up and where your clients are looking. And in 2026, that visibility is really going to directly impact, I think, your firm's growth. We've always talked about it as a differentiation, but I think now visibility will equal that differentiation and the growth. And back in, for some of us as old as Matt, we'll remember when websites were the big new thing. That a static website now is no longer enough. Social media came in the early 2000s and started to revolutionize a lot of things. AI is that big thing now. So the accounting landscape is going to become more competitive, as we've talked about, as we've touched on. So that's driven by automation and AI. But these technologies now making compliance work a lot faster and cheaper, which means firms now need to differentiate themselves through value-added services and strong branding. So simply having that website and waiting for referrals just won't cut it anymore. Your clients and people are going to be actively searching for advisors who can demonstrate like an expertise and trustworthiness online. You have to come across as authentic and trustworthy. And if your firm's not visible on social media, through thought leadership, or even via consistent client communication through nurture campaigns via email, then you could risk being overshadowed by your competitors who are.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our bread and butter topic, isn't it?
Basically, I could go on for hours on this, which I won't.
We could. Well, we'll delve a little bit deeper into this. So, I think we've heard from our customers at various events that marketing isn't really in their comfort zone. It's not one of their strengths. So what advice would you give to get them started and to keep things simple?
Yeah, I think it's just that simple. So start small. So I touched on email, but email nurtures, you can actually create, you have tools which are relatively cheap, some of the tools, where you can set up email nurtures for consistent engagement. So, for example, you could make sure that you have a newsletter that just goes out monthly and will go to your clients. You can have things that if you want them to try some other services you offer, that if they show an interest, it can follow up and then can keep following up until maybe they convert, for example. Also, and I think we should all have buzzwords, or if we had a pound for when we say AI, we'd all be millionaires, but use AI. Use AI for drafting content, so blogs, social posts, the emails I just talked about, but then always check it. So you can use it as a starting point, but almost like with some of your staff, when, I'm not saying I do this to you, Steph, but if people write their emails and the manager then approves it, do that with AI, just personalize it. Have a look at what it's written, but then almost top and tail it and make sure there's not American English in there, which is my big bugbear, and less emojis, which we see a lot on social media from these influencers. But also show up on social media often with authentic and value-driven content. So LinkedIn, for example, lots of noise on there, but add value on LinkedIn, and AI can help you with that, help you write those posts. So I think, to sum up, really, for me, if it's in your comfort zone, is use the tools that are out there. So start small, focus on tools that can give you that maximum impact with minimal effort. So AI is your best friend here, and automation, and it can really support you. But the most important thing, and I've said this since I started my career, is marketing is often common sense. It's just literally speaking to people how you would almost want to be spoken to back. So, for example, just use common sense. If you know that you would like to receive emails that mention X, Y, Z, then send those emails out. I think it's often just step back, that marketing is not as complicated as everyone thinks. It's just having the time, having almost an automation can help you to get that time. It's almost just thinking like your customers would think, your clients would think.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it's about trial and error, isn't it? Like, just try and see what comes back. And I think, AI is a really massive kind of advantage. And if you don't have a big budget, that's the perfect kind of starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we look at what the role that technology plays in marketing for accountants. I think that's AI does draft content for you, and automation can handle those repetitive tasks. Also, chatbots, I'm not even mentioning them, but they can improve client experience without much extra effort. They can answer questions such as, here's our telephone number, here's how to contact us. And you can almost train it to answer questions that maybe your switchboard or your receptionists are getting constantly. You can actually have a chatbot online that will just answer those, so people don't need to call in as much. But tech transforms marketing from a burden, I would say, into a proper growth driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thank you, Andy. So Wendy, I am coming to you next. So our next prediction from our report was becoming a technology leading transformation for people and processes. So with continuing the conversation around AI, so how do you see it reshaping firms from the inside out? What are you hearing from practices about the biggest challenges with technology adoption?
Thanks, Steph. Well, based on my opening comment, it's probably not going to be a surprise when I'm sort of talking about our role as leaders. So I've got a team of 30 plus, and we face similar challenges to you in practices. So whenever we talk to leaders, it's the same sort of issues, and it's down to people and how we lead our people through what effectively is one of the biggest changes that we've seen for a while. Now, we've all heard, and the report AI in Accounting in the UK highlights this, that, adoption is 29% higher in 18 to 24-year-olds. We've all heard that, and we know that from our experience with with youngsters. But it's not just about age, it's about attitude, it's about people's personality. Have they got a growth mindset? What's your organization culture? And it's at Wolters Kluwer, we're getting a huge amount of communications. We have got a lot of e-learning that has been pushed to us that's either compulsory or optional about AI. We've got guest speakers popping in. We've got access to webinars. And we're now at a stage where people are at different stages of adoption. And again, come back to the change curve. People, when you've got to change, people are always at different stages. Now, I recently attended a webinar where the guest speaker was a lady called Nancy Rademacher, and do recommend you check her out, particularly if you've got an interest in impact on digitization, on customer and employee behavior, because she's come up with some really it's not earth-shattering, but it's quite insightful. And one of the insights she shared was where she referenced data from a workforce lab survey from 2024 carried out by Slack. And they classified the workforce into 5 buckets, if you like. And it started off in terms of whether you were an AI enthusiast, an AI cheerleader, an AI explorer, an AI observer, or an AI skeptic. Now, you can imagine roughly that it's about 20% of your workforce in all of these buckets. However, in 2024, they were pointing out that AI enthusiasts were about 30%. And so what you're trying to do is move people from the skeptics and the observers through to being the explorers, the cheerleaders and enthusiasts of that. And our challenge as leaders is to move those people through those different buckets along the change curve, if you like. And ultimately, what that means is when you tie that into having a strong talent pipeline and looking at increasing your employee retention, when you are investing in your people, particularly around AI, and you're challenging them and investing in them, you are contributing to that retention and the development of your talent.
Okay, great. So you've talked previously about digital confidence. So how do you think leaders can help their teams embrace new tools rather than fear them? So just going in a little bit deeper about the change curve.
Absolutely. And it's leadership 101. It's back to basics on some of these things. So it's yes to education, e-learning and surfacing the theory. It's yes to providing people with access to AI and making sure that you've got a clear company policy about what they can and can't do. And it's yes to communicating what you as a practice are already doing or planning to doing it. So people feel involved, people see what's happening. But it's also, and we've alluded to this before, it's about what your company culture is and what you are setting and driving as the ideal mindset for your people to be. Are you giving them time to experiment? Are you allowing people to try and fail? And, one of the tactics that you can use is, focus a bit on, the poacher and turn them into a gamekeeper. So, share the successes, both large and small. One of the things we're doing tomorrow is that we've got another fireside chat, but this time within Wolters Kluwer Region West. And we are choosing people, or we've asked for volunteers from our teams, not leaders, but our teams, where they're sharing their wins with AI. So we're making it personal. Just a couple more things there. Also, one of the big challenges for me as well is about your data. All right. Is your data correct? We've all got legacy systems. And does that data need cleansing or processes adjusting to refine the quality of your actual data? And it alludes to what Andy was saying before about checking your output. Now, this is no different to what you were doing with reporting, but if you've got more people using AI and pulling on that same data, if it's wrong to start with, then, you need to be addressing that data and or, making sure that you drive people to check it. Also, keep talking to your teams. And one technique that I'm in the middle of or nearly completed is skip level interviews. So you as leaders, you talk probably to your management teams a lot, but what about talking to all the people in your firm, and not just a water cooler or a coffee chat, but 45 minutes once a year, twice a year, where you've got a few framed questions, and just let people talk. And you'll get the what, whys, and hows, and it's giving them time, space to talk to you. And it's amazing what they'll open up about, and ask them questions. How are you feeling? Are you worried? And, you can then work with that information. Also, the last challenge on this one is, where are you personally on your AI journey? So where do you sit? And what are people getting from you? Are they seeing you use it? Because you're setting the bar as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Thank you, Wendy. I think you've covered quite a lot there. So I'm going to move on to Matt Barnes. So your prediction, or rather combined yours and Neil's prediction, it touches on one of the pressing issues that I think there is an interest in, but maybe, we need to dig a little deeper into. So, talent. So the expectations that the workforce are changing fast. So what do you see as the biggest challenge for firms next year in this area?
Yeah, so firms are facing many different challenges. The one I'm hearing about the most at the moment is around talent shortages and skills gaps. Because I did a little bit of research for this, I've got a few stats. So between 2020 and 2022, there was a net 300,000 reduction of number of accountants leaving the industry, basically. So a 17% contraction. That's really high. 42% of firms have turned away work due to understaffing. Again, incredible numbers. 68% of professionals have reported burnout. 36% cite unreasonable workloads. If you're one of those on the call, I'm sure busiest time of the year for many. And fewer students now are pursuing becoming a qualified accountant. 31% of new hires lacking accounting degrees. So therefore, I think firms need to sort of think about how they can revamp their recruitment. And there may be a number of different ways of doing that, perhaps reconsidering alternative qualification routes, undertaking skill-based hiring, maybe looking at apprenticeship models. I think also it's attracting the talent. So it's rebranding the careers, so making them more dynamic, making them more tech-enabled and client-centric. But also as a culture, the business needs to embed flexibility within their culture so that it's attracting those individuals to join. I did attend a conference last week, and there was a whole section around this topic, so conversations around the recruiting of talent. So the guy described it as your website is your shop front, your social media is your shop floor, if you like. So thank you to Callum McRae, who's the marketing director of JE Consulting, for leading this conversation. It was very, very interesting. And I'll leave you with one thought on this, or he left me with one thought on this, is what if there isn't a talent shortage, there's just a shortage of appeal? So firms need to be looking at their own profiles on social media so that if they're going through the recruitment process, typically people will go onto your website or onto your social media streams to have a look at that business. And if it's not something that looks attractive, then they're not going to join. So that's a bit of food for thought there.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think a hybrid and remote model are here to stay for accountants? Because I'm hearing a lot about people going back to more of the office-based model. So what's your kind of thoughts on given that flexibility? Will that make a firm more attractive?
Yeah, definitely. I think hybrid is absolutely here to stay. So I'm thinking it's sort of 2 to 3 days being in the office is what's now being required of people. That's for the purposes of sort of collaboration with your colleagues, but also client meetings. So, there are reasons why hybrid will stay. Cloud-based software has enabled remote access. We know that. Routine tasks are becoming more and more automated. So why is there the actual need for physical presence in the office? Looking at it from a firm's perspective, if there's less need of office space and overhead, then why insist on people coming in if you're saving money? And if you're giving flexible work arrangements, again, going back to this is something that people looking to join your business will find attractive. So it'll help you get those and retain that talent. Obviously in the accounting profession, the work can be very seasonal. So we're now in the peak sort of tax return season. So remote working allows staff to manage stress and manage their time more effectively. And if firms have multiple offices, then they can work in different geographical locations. So the technology underpins this, right? So it's secure to work in these remote environments with cybersecurity and VPN. So I absolutely think it's here to stay. You tend to watch what's happening in the very big firms. So the top 10 firms, they're good indicators, and they've certainly adopted this hybrid working, 2 to 3 days in the office, as I've mentioned, being optimal. And these firms have invested heavily in, the cloud tools, the cybersecurity and digital client collaboration to enable this to happen. So, yeah, I definitely think it's here to stay.
Yeah, we've had a question in from Fozia. Hello, Fozia. So regarding hybrid, do you find juniors will miss out if remote working is restricted, especially in the earlier years of their careers?
Yeah, that is something that is absolutely needed to be considered. So for those juniors, if you like, that are undertaking AI and everything else, then the routine tasks are going away. So that does mean that they've become a little bit more autonomous themselves. I think there are areas that will have negative impact in adopting this approach. And Fozzie is absolutely right. If there's less interaction with senior staff members because what they're having to do and where they were previously learning is now automated. In practice, it therefore means there's less sort of informal learning, if you like, and career guidance from the senior staff if they're not having as many meetings. So I think you need to be aware of this happening and to make sure that, those areas are covered and that the junior staff coming in, although they're doing less and less manual stuff, are getting that mentoring, if you like, from the senior staff.
Yeah, just trying to find the balance, because obviously I think AI can really help with learning and development for junior staff. I mean, I saw it myself when I was observing a practice recently. Just kind of helps eliminate some of those kind of more frequent questions. But yeah, I don't think you can get away with not having that connection in-house as well. So just another question for you, Matt. So what leadership qualities do you think matter most for next year in particular?
Yeah, good question on leadership. So I think as leaders, we do need to understand what the emerging technologies are and what this is going to provide. So change is constant. So, we all need to keep up to date. For those that know me, saying that I need to keep up to date with emerging technologies, I rely on people around me to help me do that. But it is important that, you spend time understanding what that looks like. And when that happens, you do obviously need to guide your teams through that transformation. That transformation is going to leverage, data for you to make decision-making, solid decision-making basis. So you need to be able to interpret the data and to put that into actionable insights. So we're seeing this in the accountancy profession. We're moving away from compliance and we're getting into that strategic piece of thinking with advisory. We've talked about this a lot. I think the other thing is having the ability to pivot. So if things aren't going the way that they should be, blindly continuing on is not what you should be doing. If you need to pivot, then pivot quickly and then manage the output of that. So be adaptable and then manage the change management that needs to happen as a result of pivoting. But it's important, don't just continue on blindly. And I think the final thing is important for every manager stroke leader is having emotional intelligence. We've got diverse teams, and you need to maintain morale in what's a hybrid environment. So that's a really important piece as well.
Yeah, I'm going to put the same question, actually, going off script a little bit, to the rest of the panel. I mean, you're all leaders in our business. Is there anything you'd like to add to what Matt said?
I can take one. Everything Matt said, I totally agree with. You know, being a leader in this new world, you need to have multi sort of skills to kind of manage in this new way. But what I'd kind of say is, just to add another one onto that, is be the champion of change as well. Because as a leader, it's easier to kind of go with the norm. And sometimes with all this stuff that's coming on, it's all new, it's scary, and change is scary for everybody. It's going to be scary for you, but you have to somehow take the people with you. So it's just, you know, using the skills that Matt mentioned about emotional intelligence, the communication, all that sort of good stuff. But, be that sort of at the forefront, because otherwise nobody's going to come along the journey if you don't kind of take the front foot on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mo. Okay. Andy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, I was struggling to unmute. I think it's also empower your team, massively empower your team. So if there's maybe junior members of staff, give them a project to look into AI and to look into how it can actually help your practice. And you might be surprised what someone might emerge as being a real leader in your business, someone that you may not have expected to be, and start to really, it'll engage them. They'll feel excited. They'll feel like they're in an industry. It's interesting and exciting as well. So I think it's empower your staff, and I think that would be a good way as well.
Yeah, thank you. Good one.
Last thing from me is, I think, and I've mentioned it sort of before, but allow people an environment where they can try things out and fail and talk about the failures, because if you don't fail, you don't get better at something. But if you punish failure, or you make, if you don't allow people to take those steps to enable them to fail, then they're not going to develop and get better at something.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point, Wendy. Thank you. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of the webinar now. So I've got a few more questions for our panel. So thinking about next year, if you could give firms one piece of advice to future-proof their business for next year, what would it be? I'm going to go to Matt first.
I think we've mentioned it a few times, but embracing automation and AI, I think that's absolutely fundamental. So you need to invest in the tools that help automate repetitive tasks, using AI analytics for helping you with your forecasting advisory. I think if you don't do that, then you're in danger of lagging behind, and that's then going to make it very difficult to catch back up. So embrace that now, as quickly and effectively as you can, would be my advice.
Okay. Mo, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. My advice is that workflows are more important than ever before now. There's more compliance coming in. There's more touch points with clients. So what I would say is have a think about your whole ecosystem. Make sure all your systems are speaking to each other, connected to each other. Don't silo your technologies. There's lots of point solutions out there, but the more and more of these point solutions that you get, it's going to make your workflow clunkier. And as we know, there's more and more compliance coming in. So an integrated kind of system is going to allow you to scale more further without burning out your staff with all these manual processes.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mo. Andy?
Yeah, I think I touched upon everything, in my first answer around, future-proofing, future-ready accountant type thing. And it is a broken record, but it is AI, simple as that. I really think that research it. There's so many tools out there now and so much resources that people can delve into that we can all become experts. But also the thing with AI is the human touch. Don't just rely on it and just throw stuff into it and expect it to be correct. It needs that personal touch. That's how it learns, and that's how you learn as well. So it's the personal touch with technology.
Okay, great. Wendy, I'm going to ask you a different question. So what emerging trend do you think people are overlooking that they shouldn't?
Oh, gosh, Steph. Gosh, an emerging trend that people are overlooking.
Okay, anybody else want to jump in and help Wendy out?
You've thrown that one at me. Can't think of one at the moment.
Okay, well, if anybody has any thoughts in our audience on the chat, then please feel free to.
Please do get me out of the hole.
Ian?
Can I jump in there? I think
Matt.
For me, it's data. Data's king. Used to be cash is king. I think data's king in the world of many businesses now. And having that advanced data analytics and intelligent reporting, I think, is where firms can improve. Some are doing it well, some not so well. But it's giving you real-time dashboards, proactive forecasting. So there's no month or even worse quarterly lag. You're getting that information real time, in your face, as and when and then you can make instant decisions. I think that's where things will start to improve, as I say, overcoming years, and having alerting systems, if you like, that will tell you when things aren't happening as they should be.
Yeah, that's in the chat as well about monitoring your KPIs and putting into place those alerts.
Absolutely, yeah. So rather than waiting till month end, understanding that something went wrong 4 weeks ago, having to then try and make decisions to actually unpick the problem that happened a month ago, it's probably too late, or you've lost money, or you need to be making those decisions as it's happening.
Yeah, Andrew's put a comment in the chats. He said there's a lot of talk about AI, but are there any real world use cases where the benefit has actually been realized, or is it a hype? He's asked what are our plans in Wolters Kluwer to include that in the products, as not everyone can afford to invest in building their own AI tech. So that's a fair point.
Shall I take that one?
Yeah, I think you should, Mo.
So, look, do I think AI is hype? I don't. 100% I don't think it's hype. I'm using it in my personal life on a regular basis. I think I use it for during the day, many hours. I don't know how many hours. I don't want to say it, but there's a lot.
No one wants to admit it.
and it's kind of overtaking some other tools. For example, a few years ago, Google search was the way to go. I'm probably using AI to do a lot of my searches, and Google search is going down. So this trend is going to carry on, and Google are massive, and that was everybody was using that, and that's already changing. I think anything that happens in consumer world will translate into business world as well. In terms of what we've done, we've got AI to help with our accounts production, disclosure note generation in our new cloud products. That's one of the use cases we've done, and we've also got a number of other proof of concepts currently in flight to do with data collection and categorization and filling out tax returns, and also reporting with natural language. But beyond that, what we're also looking at is, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about individual elements, but the workflow. So we're looking at a workflow to get a job done, and how can AI then be orchestrating the steps so you can it kind of speeds it up. There's less sort of manual checking and intervention to kind of help with that automation. So that's some of the other stuff that we're looking at. In terms of investing, building in your own, I think all the firms, all software vendors will have to get to a point where we have AI in our tech. If we don't, then we're going to be left behind. So I'd say keep an eye on what people are doing and try and leverage that as much as possible. But if there are gaps, then like you mentioned, you can build it, but there is a cost element to it.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in there as well to back up what Mo said, and this is turning into a bit of an AI webinar, but he's banged on around what's been said about Google. So they are now, and there's a really good, interesting case study around Nike and how they changed because they weren't showing up on a number of things on search. So they changed their website to be more for AI, and now they're ranking higher because AI is searching for phrases rather than what we would search for traditionally on Google. So what companies are now having to do is almost make their web content, and the whole SEO world is more relevant for AI tools. So, for example, you might write in, well, how do I do X, Y, Z? And what now happens is AI searching and looking at your website and will deliver those results rather than maybe what they would have done traditionally on search. So it's a lot more about content now and providing people useful content. And then that's one thing. And then in terms of the hype, it's a really, really, there you go. Matt Barnes, Gartner quoted 25% drop in SEO over AI searches. So he's a marketing expert. But Gartner are. And the other thing, though, that is really interesting, when I was in a previous world, social media was the hype. And people used to say, well, I worked for a major retailer at one point in my career, and my marketing director at the time wouldn't let us go on Twitter and said, now X, and said it wouldn't last and it wouldn't be worth us going on there. I actually took a bit of a risk and went on and did it because we were sponsoring a TV program. So I actually used social media and engaged with our customers. And then we ended up winning awards for our use of social media. And I think that's the key, is that jumping on the hype, whilst yes, it can be hype, and we had maybe meta universes that were hyped up. I actually think AI now is the hype, that's the next big hype after social media in terms of marketing, but also I think in real world. Social media is now, I think AI could replace social media in many ways. I think people are so moving on from, say, X for obvious reasons. I am now known as the award-winning Andy Thompson, yes. Thank you, Matt. But also, I think a lot of AI will replace some social media. So I think that it's definitely a hype I would get behind.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of been that common theme throughout what we've spoken about here, each of you. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much for all of your insights, guys. So that's we've come to the end of the session. So thank you very much for your input. If you want to dig deeper into these themes, like I said at the beginning, this conversation has all come from our 4 predictions for the tax and accounting profession in 2026 report. So if you haven't seen that yet, we'll include that in our follow-up to you so you can have a little read. And, please just stay in touch with us. I mean, we're coming to the end of the year, but next year there's a lot of change still happening. So keep a lookout for our content, webinars, events. So please do keep engaging with us, keep asking us questions. We'd love to stay in touch with you all. But I think we can wrap things there. So thank you very much, Matt, Mo, Andy, and Wendy. And thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great Christmas.
Bye.